Well, ladies and gentlemen, today is another special broadcast we have today. And I have quite wonderful guests to discuss the subject of one of us that spoke with to us last week or the previous week, and she made very useful contribution. And today we are glad to have her back, Deaconess Meg Ogbonna. Glad to have you, ma. Again, today we have...
my bishop, it's a privilege.
Yes, thank you. Today we're also going to have Nonye Naji. She's a lawyer and an evangelist and operations. We're trying to keep it, Mrs. Naji. All right. Oftentimes, a whole lot of parents may not be able to tell you what they go through raising their children.
We are discussing today the challenges of parents raising children that have learning disabilities. And I'm speaking with Nonye Mike Naji, an NGO and also a barrister. And we will start by defining what it means to have learning challenge or learning disability. Maybe Nonye, you will take on to explain to the audience what it means to have a learning challenge. Can you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, okay.
All right, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bishop, for this to talk about managing learning challenges in children. You know, I think it's an awesome opportunity. Like Bishop rightly said before he off air, that many parents don't even have the chance to talk about what they go behind the scene with their kids, especially if they have a learning challenge or a disability. And there's power in sharing, a power in sharing your experience, in inventing. So another
Okay, due to the network,
yes,
I will
can you hear me?
Stopped.
Okay, so
we will understanding first disability type.
Okay.
It's a topic that most parents fear to discuss.
Yes.
But my privilege of discussing this topic is not that I'm a scientist or a psychologist, but I have been in a family where we raised two of those challenges. There is a difference between what we call intellectual disability and learning disability. Most times parents confuse the two terms, intellectual disability and learning disability. And they tend to, hide their child instead of going for a proper advice from the right authority. I will explain the two, because one of the things a parent will do is to become an expert in that area of concern. Intellectual disability has to do with the neurodevelopment disorder of a child. In other words, it affects the child's communication skill, it affects the child's daily life functions, it also affects the child's social lifestyle. In our own parlance, some of us say they are morons or whatever they call them. Then you also have the other group which we are concentrating on today, which has to do with learning disability. And this learning disability is a condition which affects the different areas of learning. And one interesting thing is that one of every child out of every 5 children you see has a learning disability, because the learning disability interferes with their academic achievements of those children. It involves their reading skill, their writing skill, their spelling skill, their comprehension skill, even their mathematics and organizing the languages they are introduced to in school. So those are those areas where the learning challenge focuses on the inability of a child, to write well, to read well, and to comprehend that which is taught in class. And the reason is that the parents have not gone to find out that there are different methods of learning. Everybody has one disadvantage or the other, such as, but it's not well pronounced in our society. When somebody can speak or write, we assume that everything child, he or she may be good in speaking, but when he writes, you will see something different that makes it difficult for the class teacher or for him to pass his examination when the teacher sees the writing skill, a big challenge. Or the child cannot handle mathematics in school, and the parents are saying, you are a dullard, you can't pass mathematics. So these are the areas only parents can feel free to discuss such issues, and they will get to know that they are not alone in the they're not alone in the business of those learning challenges. For the may have problem with writing. Another child may be good in writing, may have problem with mathematics or comprehending what he or she read. And so each of those children are treated differently when we are dealing with such issues. So at this point, I will give opportunity for the next speaker to also comment on the definition or the understanding of what a learning challenge is in our parlance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I think that's a very good way to get the discussion. Having a teacher, my daughter is 15 years old, so she's autistic, has ASD, autism spectrum disorder. She's in the spectrum. So, I'm a psychologist, I'm a lawyer. But when you live with a child with a kind of a disability, it helps you to read more. It helps you to inquire more. It makes you more empathic. So, about learning challenge. Learning challenge is just basically information processing problem. The child is unable to process certain kind of information. And because he is unable to process that certain kind of information, comprehend it, there's now expected skills, intelligence is a gap because the child cannot comprehend information. Like Margaret actually explained, there are different kinds of learning challenges. Sometimes we difficulty challenge. For me, I'll come to say, okay, that challenge now we can divide challenge into two: learning difficulty and learning disability / disorder. So learning difficulty is when a child, everything is okay, just because there are certain, the child is not exposed to the right curriculum, the right thing is supposed to learn at a particular age, poor exposure, wrong or zero exposure. The child is not even exposed to any kind of academic work because of where they are, where they live. So I'm thinking about difficulty. Now, this child ordinarily properly, if he was in a social environment where he was to learn. And remember that some families are very poor and cannot actually take their children to school. So they don't learn, they don't develop any kind of skill. So when you now bring this, you now want to go and force her to go and start from primary 2, primary 3. Not, he has extreme difficulty in processing certain information. So we now go the extra mile to find out what can or this boy do at this particular moment. So we're talking about learning difficulties. Religious factors can be, where girls are not exposed to education, girls are not supposed to be educated. That particular gender is exposed to, there is a gap in what they're supposed to know at a particular age, academic-wise, information-wise, etc. Then those of the parents. Now, some families will not actually send their girls to school. The preference is always the male child. So that of learning difficulty. So learning difficulty comes up, arises when certain factors actually environmentally towards that child what is supposed to. Then the second leg of the challenge, which is disorder or learning disability. So you can usually see a disorder, you can see it as a disability. So about learning disorder, learning disability. We are talking of a disorder that is organic one, that by and it is in a child. Like even when you expose a child to everything that is the environment, academic, everything is on the ground for this. There is an inherent problem in a child. So in disorder or a disability, this is not a learning difficulty. environment cannot even change. So this child learns to live with this disability throughout his life. It can become mild with time. When it's proper management, and then when it's proper tutelage. Exactly. So then what Sister Margaret actually said, okay, that now this disorder now comes in almost mainly commonly. So you have the reading disorders, composed, the mathematics disorder, and you have the disorder in reading expression. Most likely. So
at this juncture, I want to apologize to our viewers. Our internet seems not to be very good today. I am broadcasting from Jos, and is very, very epileptic. We're not. I don't know if the sound is clear from your side, but from my side, it's Jackie.
Yes.
Nevertheless, Sister Nonye, is your okay? You are hearing me clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, sir. Mm.
So I don't know how others are hearing it. You have said a lot of things, and yes, one of the things while we are discussing this subject is that so many parents heap all the blame on the child. I happen to know a situation where an albino child, albino girl, she went to school all the years. She finished primary school, she couldn't read or she couldn't write. And the parents were so worried, so they stopped the child from going to school. Not only far late in life, they discovered that that child, though in the classroom, but because it's bored. And then recently I discussed with Jack Epele, who is the president of the Albino Association of Nigeria. And he told me that that was a big problem that almost all the albinos had in their school days, that even him, they all struggled through it. But that nobody was listening to you, nobody knew what you were facing. They thought you were seeing the board, but in actual fact, they were not seeing the blackboard. So whatever the teacher was teaching, they were just nodding their head. So in the same vein, a lot of children have several situations that sometimes you begin to wonder, is it until a child go through a classroom, go through some of our normal educational process, that the child can be said to be educated or not? Are there alternative ways we can still get a child educated, or look into their strength and maximize it? Sister Meg. Hopefully you heard me. Did you hear what I said? Okay. Did you hear me, Sister Nonye?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. Okay. So
are there alternative ways we can begin to think about accommodating such children in terms of education, other than the normal way we've been going about it?
Oh yeah, yes, really. Number one, if a child has a disorder, right? Like my daughter, let's take my daughter for instance. we found that she was ASD, as autism spectrum. She was in the spectrum. So, but that was 3-4 years when she was 4 years. So, so she would be in class. We enrolled her just as a normal classroom thing. Making any. Everybody was so like came back from Dublin and thinking probably change of environment. What's happening? Therapy, we are referred to a therapist. I always remember Mercy. One woman or one man can actually change a lot. So why am I telling this story? They will just push her. The private school, they will push her about school. So they come up with an IEP, individualized education program. They assessed her, found out her strengths, and then designed a curriculum for her. So even though it was in primary 1 or primary 2, it was not doing. But there was a program drawn for her. That's right.
Specifically for her.
For her. So that he actually, learn music one that was building on her strength. She has
like she was saying, a particular curriculum was drawn for the daughter who is autistic.
For her. That's for academics.
So
that there are alternatives.
Because her learning speed and
going
skills
through a disorder or disability. There are many 21st century learning tools. There are softwares, based programs. There are a lot of things available now that can help aid a child. But I must also emphasize that there must be a diagnosis. That is, if a child has a learning disorder. Sometimes when a child is also going through a difficulty, there is no psychological problem here. There is no psychological problem here. The child is going through a learning difficulty. Probably academics is not for this child. We can actually opt for a lot of functional skills. A lot of things are available now for a child to do. It mustn't be inside the 4 walls of a classroom. If there is a early diagnosis, early assessment, stop hiding your child. Bring out your child to be diagnosed. Even children with disability, those who have other compounded health problems. They call it comorbidity. You have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. On top of that, ADHD, you understand, or ADD, you understand, or can have seizure disorders. So, child, early assessment will help to find out her strengths. Is it in activities, football? Is it even with your autism? God is so off. Even with the autism, when a child is lacking in one area, they usually compensate from another area. So a child will read, but when you'll be wondering what is happening. So it's early diagnosis. Pay attention to your child. Find out what it is and build on that strength. Sister Meg.
Sister Meg.
Yes, that's exactly. Most parents, we are looking at a situation where most parents don't understand that once a child is born, that there are other issues before you conclude that the child is sound. And because we don't run these normal checks in our own climate in Nigeria, it's by the time such a situation is discovered in a child, the child has gone far with such a disability, rather than corrective measures when a child is young, you would go into therapy. And therapy takes a longer process and a more difficult process to correct. But the early signs, if parents could detect the early signs,
instead of,
and some of the early signs you could detect is that the child is not measuring up with what the child of his or her age is doing. You can see a child of 1 year still not able to control his bowel movements. It's a challenge. A child that is not able to move around the way he should move around, or stand up the way other colleagues of his are standing up, is a challenge. So, but we try to see those early signs as things we pray about, rather than taking action to investigate what could be wrong with such things. And as parents, we are the vocal advocate for our children.
Yeah,
we are yes, as parents, we are the vocal advocate for these children, because it is our speaking up.
Yes.
It is our responsibility to speak up on time, before even the child realizes what could be happening to him or to her. But if we don't detect those things early, the child tends to grow up, and it's only when the child enters the classroom that we begin to see those things. And there is always this problem of denial with parents, because at the early time of this discovery, a child doesn't even know what he or she is going through. So the denial is on the side of the parents, who don't want to accept that there is need for a review of your child, either to go medically or go to a psychologist to find out, or a pediatrician to find out what is wrong with that child. And when you find out on time, taking that early step goes a long way in correcting those observed challenges before the child enters the classroom. Peradventure, the parents didn't even discover, and a child enters the classroom. You'll also pick up when you discover that the child has problem of writing, apart from the neurodevelopment challenges that affect the psyche of a child. We are trying to look at the issue of the learning disability that is peculiar to children, that is specific to reading, to writing, to solving mathematics. When this child is discovered, it could be the learning pattern. It's not every child that enters a classroom that learns by just the teacher speaking in class. Some children, when you just speak in class, they switch off. There are some children who learn by audio visual methods. They want to see. That's why in total training of a child, it must be balanced, both the art of classroom teaching and the one that is being taught in the classroom. But amidst all these things, the parents play a critical role. They play a critical role in addressing this issue. So if the parents, become the advocate for the child, advocate trying to seek solution, find what the problem is, rather than hiding the child in the house or pretending as if nothing is wrong with the child. By the time the parent gets to know, and the child has developed into withdrawal syndrome. Withdrawal syndrome because in the class he would have been humiliated by his colleagues or for not doing well in class. So instead of the child improving, the child continue to diminish in class. So it's important for us to identify what are these learning patterns that suits this child. Is the child not seeing in class? Then, because having an albino, like the example you gave, automatically the way they look is a sign that something is wrong with their focus, and that could affect their reading in class and their reading, because once they can't read what is on the board, it affects their intelligence. And once it affects their intelligence, and people are, making jest of them for not knowing what to do in class.
Because their parents didn't know on time.
Didn't know on time.
Give them glasses.
Yes, to give them glasses, the child begins to withdraw. And the worst thing is when a child loses self-confidence and self-worth. It becomes a very big problem in learning. It becomes a very big problem in learning. And so we shouldn't allow the child to get to that level where the child will feel withdrawn from activities in the classroom or even wanting to disappear from where his or her colleagues are, and they wouldn't relate with his fellow colleagues. And if the disability goes beyond reading and writing,
exactly,
then the parent will not seek for further help on what social support can this child get to be able to learn. When I started earlier, I said I grew up with I grew up with two sisters, one physically disabled and the other one intellectually disabled as a result of accidents that took place. The one that was physically disabled, every other senses were okay, but she needed that reinforcement to be accepted the way she is. And it's the family that did her to help her to accept her disability to the extent that she became a counselor to other people, because she grew, find herself with physical disability and begin to address issues of life on her own, because that confidence was built in her, that courage was given to her, that support was given to her. I could remember leaving secondary school early. I learned to drive early because of her sake, so that I could take her around and not to make her to shy away from where you have the gathering of people. And that confidence went a long way in making her and molding her who she eventually became in life. And she was an advocate for other disabled people and a rallying point for the whole family. Then I also had a house help that came to live with me. And I discovered that each time she goes to school, she goes with fear. And I said to her, what is the problem? And I began to search. I discovered that she couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she could do things, domestic things, very, very articulating. And I wanted her to grow in life. I said, okay, we have to go through a therapy. I went to the school where I put her. I spoke to the teachers. Because by the time you are speaking to the school teachers, such a child will be treated differently from other children. And there will be this reinforcement of confidence in that child. Bishop, I tell you, that child left school, graduated from secondary school, cleared all her papers. But I know by her level that she couldn't go further. And I put her in nutritional school, School of Catering, owned by the federal government. And by the time she graduated, her cooking skills were exceptional, that she has worked in most of the best catering outfits in both in Lagos, and she relocated to Port Harcourt. She was quick to be picked up because of those culinary skills she acquired. She could stay at the back and prepare all the meals, but she cannot come forward to interface with the customers. So I said to her, and when she started work, I spoke to the management. I said, if you allow her to interface with your customers, she may not do well. Just allow her in the kitchen. So that is identifying the peculiarity of that child in learning. And that learning is somebody that works with hands and is not able to read, is not able to write, but very skillful with his hands. So that is the position of parents. We must differentiate between skills and schoolwork. It's unfortunate that in this climate, everybody thinks that schoolwork is the ultimate. Schoolwork is not the ultimate, but the skill of that child, no matter how bad, And I have another sister, though I say I have two sisters, who also could be described as an autistic child. But because of that reinforcement, she cleans the house very, very well. And so it became her responsibility to clean the whole house. And nobody, nobody advises her to clean the house. She knows that she will clean the house. And she does
From
the
part of this
household chores,
discussion, we
cleaning
must find
very,
out
very
that
well.
parents
But she can't cook.
must be
The parents
determined
must
to make sure
identify.
that their children are educated.
The parents must identify the learning challenge of that child. And once you discover the learning challenge, then you focus yourself on how to overcome that learning challenge with that child, because the parents' role plays a very, very important. You cannot take away the parents, but most times we push it to the school. The confidence of the child in picking up starts from the home. So, and another thing is that we set reasonable expectations for them. We don't expect so much. The little effort they make should be magnified to build them up.
Okay.
And when it is magnified, they say, oh, I can do this. Then they go all the way and keep trying. And by trying, you see that there will be level of improvement in that particular child in question. So it's important that our expectations, all the children cannot be the same. If one is sound academically, discover the other child's talent and build on that talent. If it is a child that has kinetic learning, it means the child requires adequate experience, hands-on experience to excel. And such children, technical schools are sound for them and not the conventional schools. But here we'll write off the technical schools. The technical schools, there are children who are specifically designed by nature and by talent to go through technical schools, rather than every child going through the normal secondary school education. So when you discover, you channel that child through technical education, and you see that what he or she does with his hands will be so amazing that you cannot believe, oh, this is the child I thought is a never do well. So parents need to provide guidance. The support we give to these children establishes how far these children can go.
Exactly. Thank you, Sister Meg. Another question I need to ask that we need to look into is, what about children that don't have any kind of impediment, medically, psychologically? They even did well in primary school, secondary school, but they get into the university for some repeat classes. They find it difficult. Did you hear my question?
Yes, you said children that did well in primary school.
Children, yes, even secondary school, but suddenly some classes, sometimes parents get impatient, withdraw them from children born by headmasters, headmistresses, teachers in particular. They never want any child out of school. They believe the child will get better. They are always hopeful that this child, instead they will demand the child repeat the class but somewhere along the line, their children finish schooling. But to some other parents, they get angry, they withdraw the child. Okay, also to female children get say, oh, you are finished, and they just withdraw the child out of school. Whereas if it happened to children of the rich, they don't withdraw the child, they find a way around it.
Okay.
All right, you had me. What's your take?
Okay, my take really, the part one of the question, a child is already doing well, primary school, secondary school, primary school, she's already doing well. Past then when she's now in the university. Sister Meg?
Yes, please. Are you
okay,
speaking?
so yeah, okay. So Bishop was saying a child, right, does well in primary school. There's no psychological problem, and she does well in secondary school. Now she enters university, and there's a different story. She keeps repeating classes and all that. My take is number one.
Okay. Did you hear? Okay, you may not have heard me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking that's the part one of your question, Bishop. So what's wrong with this child that's suddenly is not doing well in university? There will be a couple of reasons, and then number one can be truancy. Truancy is when someone is just skipping classes. Skipping classes, cannot cope with the workload. There is no encouragement, reinforcement, coming from either parents, from teachers. The person is not just adapting to the environment. Then he starts skipping classes, truancy. So that will accumulate, and then there is poor grades.
Right.
Number two can just be peer pressure. All of a sudden, he can't handle, especially nowadays that our children are entering the university at a very young age. At a very, very young age. So the university environment is, everyone is free. This is where you're supposed to map out your timetable, show a level of maturity, be able to carry the workload, and these children cannot cope. You can see some kids at a very tender age, they're already in university, and they cannot cope psychologically, and they cannot cope socially with what's happening in the campus environment. So peer pressure sets in. And this is the kind of kids that will be, that will be initiated into calls.
Exactly.
Older kids can actually deceive. A lot of things can happen. Peer pressure is peer pressure. Then number three.
Okay, let me say
this child also.
You notice that today, when young let that pressure even on the teachers to promote your child, promote them, let them enter the university. You find out that a lot of these university undergraduates are merely kids. They are children that have been quickly promoted from secondary school, and they enter university without a mind of their own.
Exactly.
Like I was saying, a whole lot of parents are just telling the teachers in secondary school, promote my child, promote. So at the end of the day, we end up releasing kids into the university system. So at some point, they don't even have a feeling that they're going to school is for themselves. They think they are doing it to satisfy their parents, not knowing that going to school will benefit them first.
but Bishop, also there is a root cause thing. there's a root cause to their feeling that they are actually studying for the parents. You know, it is when the parents, you know, sometimes the parents will just, it's all about the parents' ego. The parents will want you to live out their ego. A lot of medical doctors didn't even want to be medical doctors. A lot of lawyers didn't even want to be lawyers. Because they were the reading professions then. I must be mama lawyer. I must be mama doc. Right? You know, so they push their children into professions that satisfy the ego of the parents. So when the child is doing it, she thinks she's doing the parents a favor. And sometimes our kids are just overly entitled as well. You know, the come back to say maturity and the home, right? You know, there's a proper sense of responsibility has not been inculcated in that child. You're responsible. Now you're responsible. You're responsible for your life. You know when you wake up. You know when you're supposed to go to class. This course you have studied and you passed your JAMB. You were not pushed. You are here now. Now take control of their lives. And these children cannot take control of their lives. You know, we take them to their JAMB lessons. We wait for them. We carry them back. We are just over pampered. So when the time for reckoning comes, they can't really fit in. But then again, parents should stop forcing their egos on the children. Discover what your child is inclined to.
Okay.
Your child wants to study in the university. From every record, she can actually make it in the university. What does she study? What does she want to do? What is she naturally inclined? I have seen lawyers become caterers. After that 6 years, after that 5 years, then they come out and they become caterers. And they are running successful. I know a lawyer that is running a successful natural hair salon.
Okay. I know a magistrate that became a fashion designer. He left the bench.
Natural hair salon, and she's a lawyer. You know, medical doctors are now contractors, government contractors, politicians, because they never naturally. You know, so they were not naturally inclined. So parents should actually leave their children to actually study towards what they're naturally inclined to. You save a lot of time. The child is also involved in what they are doing because if she's passionate, you know, you can't fake passion. Passion is passion. You can't fake it. If a child is doing what he's naturally inclined to do, you see him passionate, you see him happy, you see him boisterous, you see him self-motivated. You know, he's self-motivated, he wakes up to it. You know, so we should not force our ego on our children. Let them do what they're naturally inclined to do, and we will enjoy them. Some children are now depressed. They're in universities. A 4-year course, they're doing it for 6 years. And now is the mother coming to his room begging him. It has now turned to prayer points. But if you actually go to the root cause of the matter and tell ourselves the truth, we might actually be the cause. You know.
Okay, let me come in here, Bishop, to add to what Sister Nonye have said. The reason why you see somebody doing well in secondary school and getting to university and is not doing so well, if you look at the root cause, or if you look at the upbringing of that child was never self-propelling. What do I mean by that? That is a child that drives himself or herself. Most times, the training parents give to their children these days is overbearing, in the sense that you don't even allow the child to take initiatives in what the child should do and what the child shouldn't do. Allow the child to take initiative, then you do the correction and say, no, I don't want you to go this way. Reasons being 1, 2, 3. But let that child take the initiative. Children go through primary schools, I call it manipulation, being manipulated by their parents. a child has not reached the age of going into secondary school, or even when a child has reached the age of going into secondary school, you must differentiate your children. If that child is not capable from primary school going into secondary school, allow the child to get to repeat or get to the next class. For instance, my son, after their school ended in primary 5. Most primary schools these days end in primary 5 because of the robust nursery school educational training they undergo. And by the time he was finishing primary 5, I discovered that most of his assignments, he could not do it all by himself. It's either the home teacher or we, the parents, must put in something before he could submit an assignment. When you leave him by himself, he will not do it. I said, no, you are not prepared for secondary school. And I moved him from that school to go and do primary 6. Okay. And he needed my support. By the time he finished primary 6, he was well equipped to enter secondary school, because by that extra year, his mate had gone ahead. He decided to sit up. But when we force them and say, okay, your mates are going ahead to the next class, move on, the child moves on. Passing exam does not mean you are intellectually and you are not just intellectually prepared. You must be matured physically to be able to enter secondary school. And by the time they enter secondary school, you have most of our children going from home. By the time they go from home, they have not still been left to have self-propelling, to do things on their own. The parents are still manipulating their time. You could see that those that went through secondary school boarding houses mature faster than those that go from home reading through secondary school, because they are being supervised and superintended over by their parents, not leaving them to start facing life on their own, because by the time they are in the boarding house, they are confronted with their boarding house masters, they are confronted with the school management, and most of the petting, because it's natural to pet your child, they will not see it, and they'll wake up and know that it is no longer milk and bread, but they have to face the real thing in life, and that is being who they are and competing with their fellow students. And if they successfully pass through that secondary school by their own drive, also learning, who they are and not being under peer pressure, then by the time they enter secondary school, most of them that enter the higher institution and start doing well are still being propelled. We are propelled through secondary school, either by lesson teachers who was helping them throughout their classes. Instead of them doing their own self-study, the lesson teacher comes and teaches through, and you see that child wait for the lesson teacher, not doing anything until the lesson teacher comes, helps in the home assignment, helps in the school assignment, and the child goes to submit. He passes the examination. You are prepared for the examination, and you move on and on. But in the university education, it's a different ball game. You have to wake yourself up. You have to know when the lectures are not systematic, whereby you have 6 hours on the stretch. You may have 7 o'clock lecture and the next lecture is at 12. The child goes for the 7 o'clock lecture and comes back tired and will not push himself or herself to the 12 o'clock lecture because he's already relaxed. So it's a psychological issue for the child to realize that I am whom I am, not because of my parents, but I must have that self-drive to achieve my aim in school. Then the other one Nonye picked on is reading the wrong courses. We are pushing our children to read the wrong courses. Every child has a talent. If you don't discover the talent of your child, especially when it is time to choose a course, the attention of an educational counselor is highly recommended. because these children these days, they are like photocopies. They can read you. Sometimes you don't even know where their inclinations are. They are good in science. They are good in arts. They are all round. And what do? You begin to ask that child which area, or you discover yourself what area that child is good at. Is this child good in arithmetic? Is good child good in speaking? Is this child good in reading? Is he science-based? Is he art-based? And before you know it, you now know where the child picks interest. There are children who are good in sciences. Yes, they go to sciences, but they have this passion for arts-related courses, like like painting, like marketing, and all those things. And that you want that child to go and study medicine, to go and study law, and that makes him who he is. No, but there are areas you have to discover what is the skill of this child. When you drive that child to studying in the higher institution where his skill is dominant, there may be other skills, but when we talk of dominant skill, that child cannot lose out in the higher institution. Rather, the child will be propelled to even make greater strides than he or she made in the secondary school. And if you look at this school curriculum these days, especially in secondary school, they have separated humanities, they have separated commercial studies and science studies. Now you just have a narrow margin between science, arts, and commercial business studies. And so if you are not careful in the selection of the course that child is capable of doing, that child picks up a wrong course when every friend of his says, I'm going in for medicine, and he thinks he can go in for medicine. Meanwhile, it's a child that does not, have feeling for sick people or empathy for sick people. It's not there. A child that has, among all your children, you discover those that have empathy when somebody is sick in the house, and you discover those who stand aloof. You see that one that stands aloof, you encourage him to go into medical life sciences, where you'll be pampering people. He will get in and he will say, no, I don't like this. And the child would have gone too far before he discovers that I'm not able to do this course. And he now starts looking for other courses in catering, other courses that are not directly related to the very subject he has or course he has studied. It means ab initio that the core competency of that child was not discovered. Because even when a child deviates from a course of learning, it's a marginal deviation, and that deviation will be close to the course of study. But when you have a wide deviation, it means that that child entered the university because of academic excellence, but not because of the core competence of his gift or talent in which he or she is working. So those things must be addressed, because by the time that child gets to the university education, nobody now is telling that child what to do. He's in the university. You are not visiting the child as you are visiting in the secondary school. But it's also amazing to see parents, when a child is entering the university, the parent is following the child to do registration of all courses at the university level. We are not doing well for that child. You can be good enough, drop the child and wait, but insist that the child interfaces, because it's another ball game entirely. But we see parents following children, visiting their lecturers to speak to the lecturer concerning the child at the higher institution level, to go to the registrar to help the child do registration, and also to tell the child when to eat and when not to eat. A child in higher institution, that child is not yet prepared or matured enough. He may be, or she may be, academically intelligent. And I'm sure if university educations are close to most parents, they'll tell the children go from home, so that they will also
monitor. A lot
monitor.
of parents are listening.
They'll tell the child, go from home so that I monitor what. So most of them, they are leaving home entirely for the first time at the university level, and they begin to misbehave, or not actually misbehave per se. It's just that they are overwhelmed by what they see in the higher institution. They take decisions by themselves now, which they have never taken without the incursion of their parents.
Let me also ask, taken before. Yes. There is so much to talk about in this area. I hope parents are taking note, because we seem to be over pampering our children in the present. It's tied to even university. You follow up on lecturers, you send recharge cards to follow up on the child and the rest of it. And no, there's a whole lot to be improved upon. Okay, let me now, by way of our rounding up, let's talk to parents. How do you manage obstructions in your girl child to school, and suddenly, in the middle of her course, she gets involved in teenage pregnancy, or you are determined to send a child to school and somehow he gets into cult? He could have repented from it, or you could have sent a child to school, spent of the child becoming truant, and then recognizes himself. How do we encourage parents to navigate such bridges in their children's education?
Yes, such bridges in a girl's child education, if for any reason a child accidentally gets pregnant in school, the child needs the support of the family to continue in life. Well, it has happened. What is the next step? How do you overcome this issue? The girl child, you allow the girl child to have the baby.
The stigma,
Yes, you allow the girl child to have the baby, and you encourage her, you show her love, and you encourage her to go back to school. The stigma people talk about does not last for long. If that child is able to overcome that initial embarrassment, it's not really a stigma. That initial embarrassment, with time, the whole thing will fizzle out. But that girl child, you will make sure that he would have learned the lessons of his life. By encouraging the child, you have to tell the child the consequences, that if you stop, this child you have at an early age who takes responsibility. Well, why the parents take the responsibility of take away the child from the girl child should be encouraged to go and face the school, to face the world again. That embarrassment will make her to be more comforted. And once she continues with her academics and begin to excel, it becomes a thing of the past.
Go face the shame.
Yes, I always advise that the child go back to the school where he or she is coming from, except if the management of the school does not accept the child back. But if they do, it has a way of making that child overcome the embarrassment and face reality. I did mention the same thing. We are talking about a child that is pregnant. It also affects a child that is physically disabled, because those that are physically disabled if you don't help them to overcome that their physical disability, they shy away from the public. But when you push them to interface with the public, make them realize, yes, I am disabled, and what about it? What can I do about it? As I earlier spoke, that I have a sister that is physically disabled. Funny enough, when we go to church and they start singing stand up for Jesus, she will just tap you by the side and say, a physically disabled child, are you also among the stand up for Jesus? So there will always be a sense of humor to overcome those challenges, accept those challenges and face them headlong. Otherwise, you will not move forward. You will always continue to feel somebody is speaking behind you. Then when you confront those people you feel that have already known what has happened, it will only take maximum months, and even what has happened is a bygone. And they see a new person with a new zeal, and a new person also doing well in class, a new person with with good vigor to drive her academic challenge, and it becomes a story. And it will be a bad thing for that child to allow a second recurrence. The careful management and careful warning and encouragement will make the child. Then when the child is thrown away and not encouraged to go back, that will be a change of a destiny for that child. So children should be encouraged. Even when a child fails in school, it's not the end. Encourage that child to repeat the class in that same school, rather than go to beg teachers to push the child forward. You will discover that when the child stays in that new class, he will make friends with those new people, and constant, encouraging that child, giving that child hope, being optimistic. I know you can make it. Be positive with that child. And that child, before you realize it, you will see that the child will be leaning towards you for support. Anything he wants or she wants to do, he will come. Am I getting it right? You say, yes, you are getting it. Even if the child is not doing well in school, say you are doing it well. Go ahead, try your best. Encourage hard work. Encourage optimistic way of looking at things. Also encourage sense of humor. Joke about that incident with that child. Once you joke about it, then when they hear it from outside, they'll no longer see it as an issue, but rather a normal joke he or she gets from the home for those who are at the table. So that's my input in that.
Yes. Sister Nonya, what about the boy child who suddenly becomes a truant in school, then realizes himself or gets into police or smoking or whatever, then realizes himself? Then most of the times parents have concluded this is a no-go, no child. And instead of pushing the child forward, helping, they give up on their child easily. What's your advice?
Okay, my advice is, first of all, there's a positivity here. Number one, the child has come back to his senses. And I think it's also the parents' responsibility to accept the child. The child is back. As Sister Margaret actually said, let the person go back again to that place where he fell and continue from where he stopped. And also, studies have shown, and I have a life example. This child was a truant. He would take the father's car. He would knock down. There was reports up and down. Everywhere there was, in fact, they've written off this child. Then I was just passing, and I met this child in the middle of the street, standing in the midst of people. He has just knocked down a primary school wall. Then I looked at the child. They called the parents. The father was shouting from the phone, arrest him, take him to the police station. In fact, then this is what he has been doing. This is what he has been doing. Hi. And then I looked at the boy's face. He was He was beyond grieved. Are you getting it? They took the child to the police station. This is a juvenile. They took him to a police station. He was about to enter the university. But this was a written off child. I left everything I was doing. I went to the police station. I sat down with this child. I bought mineral, I bought something, and I spoke to him. Long story short, the father made noise. Oh, they repaired the school wall. This young man, I was now the only person in that family that the young man can relate to. If the mother wants him to do something, they will now call me, please talk to him. And immediately I will talk to him. He listens. Long story short, this child now, this guy, this gentleman now, has finished successfully his university with honors. This child now is now an assistant pastor of a youth ministry. This child now actually got a job for himself. By himself. He has gotten a car within 1 year of employment, has gotten a car for himself. He still comes to me for mentorship. What am I saying? A listening ear. A listening ear. A listening ear. Love. Love is a force that you cannot stand against. It's a force that can change anything. Sure. Accept your child. Bring your child. Give him a listening ear. It is better for you to cancel your child than the world cancels your child. What if I was a bad person? Like I was these bad people and I went to him in that police station and offered him Igbo and told him, and that is how extremists recruit people. Are you getting it? Anything would have happened to that boy. But fortunately, there was someone that came to that police station. I even employed him when he was doing his IT. He will follow me or will go and deliver something, and then he will leave one of his shoes where we went for delivery. He had no bearing in life. But he will leave his shoe, enter the car, will now get home. He will start looking for the shoe. I said, where is the other shoe? That he left it where we went for supply. I will shout, He will run away from the house, he will come. This is what we did. And now, Bishop, now he is standing on his own. Be patient with your child. No two children are the same. They are different. My first son, when I found out that, the love of mothers and their first son, I said, Nonya, help your mother and help this child. If this child stays with you, he will not amount. I had to tie my heart. This is a child that is so endearing, always smiling, will come to you and everything. I had to close my eyes. I say, you are going to the boarding house from GS1. This child that could not talk,
serious.
Sean will not be he's not a forceful person. He's someone that is not preemptive. You understand? Lo and behold, Bishop, I wake up in the night and my heart will be pounding. What are they doing to him now? Are they punishing him? Are they doing this? But by the power of the Holy Spirit, I knew that I was making the right decision. School ends. First term, this one. I see my son. Hey, Mom, what about your business? Are there customers now? Oh, check my things. So everything is complete. I even numbered my things. I was looking. It was like they have delivered back an entirely new person. Sometimes we might just be the clog in the wheel of our children's progress. If your child has truly changed, even if he has not changed, look at the things that are in front and leave what is behind and keep believing. Be a prisoner of hope where this your child is. Come with faith. Give love, continue giving love until there is a manifestation of that which you actually believe in your heart concerning your child. This transcends every other thing, both teenage pregnancy, both disorders, disability. There is nothing that love cannot handle. My daughter Christine at 4 years old could not. We came back from Dublin. I became depressed. I am saying this to anyone listening. One person can actually change the life of another human being. It was an assistant therapist, not the main therapist, so assistant therapist that took an interest, being passionate about that thing that she was supposed to do. Mercy, I will never forget her as long as I live. Mercy took Christine from tabula rasa, blank slate, and she taught Christine colors, taught her numbers, taught her things, taught her arithmetic. People were coming from their classroom to come and see. Christine was like a showcase because one person was able to show love. So even if there's a learning disorder, disability, I know that it will not change. The individual might live with it throughout their life. But when we do early diagnosis, we detect it early, we show that support, it becomes milder. We give the child a fighting chance in the world. We give the person a rich life. You understand? And I want to take this opportunity to know so that even when I was depressed, because sometimes parents also will beat ourselves up. I was beating myself up because I used epidural to have Christine. That is why Christine is autistic. I used epidural when I was having Sean. I used epidural when I had Christine. So when Christine was manifesting, I started beating myself up. So if you're a parent and you're listening, it is what it is. Accept what it is and move forward in positivity. It is not because you didn't take your B complex that the child is doing somehow. It is not because you didn't do this. It's not because they didn't start antenatal early. It's not because you were lying on one part. It's not because you did not pray a lot. It is what it is. There's this prayer that they usually pray in AA meetings. Pray and ask God, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Open your heart and receive your child as your child. Then the prayer goes on, encourage the person, accept the person. Then you say, Father, give me the courage to change the things I can. Stand up, take your child to therapy.
Yes.
The child needs therapy to live a rich and full life. Let her go for him, go for therapy. If you need to change vocation, if it's technical drawing, whatever it is, it might even be playing football. Who knows?
Sure.
Do you know there's a school of thought that says that autism is not really a problem? That it is that a new set of children are coming to the world that are communicating differently. And in US, as we speak, autistic children, autistic adults are the ones they employ now for accuracy and routine. They are being employed. So it depends on where we are looking at this problem. Three blind gathered near a big elephant. One person is touching this place, another person is touching this place, another person is touching this place. Where are you seeing the problem for? As Christians, it is very easy for us. Let's look at our child through the eyes of Christ and accept them in love. When we accept them in love, the prayer goes forward. Change the educational outcome of that child. The prayer goes forward and says, now grant me wisdom to know the difference. Well, the difference between things that you cannot change and the difference with the things that you can change. The Lord grants you wisdom, He grants you grace. You accept your child. You pat yourself on the back. You pat yourself on the back and say, Nonye, you have loved Christine. You have loved Christine. You have showered Christine with all the love she can be. Christine now cleans the whole house. Somebody that cannot do anything, Christine now, she's taller than me. Christine cleans after, when I'm cooking, we are cooking together. I enjoy every moment. Stop beating yourself. Don't be depressed. And if you're a parent listening, and you have a child with a disorder, a disability, and you have fallen into depression, stand up and go for counseling. Associate, widen your circles. Accept love and accept help. Leave everybody and take a break. Renew yourself. Because you know all these things that we're discussing now about managing children with learning challenges. The common denominator is a primary caregiver, which is the parents. We are the common denominator. Every other person will come, teacher will come, therapist will come. We are still that common denominator. We are the people that spend the most time with them. So you are your greatest asset. The greatest asset in this entire conversation is you, the parents, or the guardian, or the uncle, whoever is taking care of that child that is playing transit. You are the one. You stay on the post where God has kept you. You pray for that child. You give the child the necessary support. You yourself take time out. Take time out. Remember, it is what it is. It is not witches. It is not Obanje. It is not warfare. It is what it is. Your child cannot read well. Your child is not good in mathematics. It is what it is. Leave the story so that you don't go and commit suicide and die before your time.
And complicate issues.
It matters. Do you know, Bishop, when I'm cooking with Christine, it's like show. Because I want her to learn to cook. I cannot teach her the way I teach other children. You know, my sister comes with her elder daughter, and I will be sad. I will say, hey, yeah, Christine at this age. I will see her daughter Kim. He will just be arranging things. You know how a daughter of 15 years old will be behaving. But I look at my daughter. When we cook, I'll put a stereo, a speaker. She likes rock, Bishop rock. She doesn't all those Christian music, but rock. So I'll put those rock Christian music. We will be dancing in the.
I hear they like. If you see, I hear they like music a lot. I hear they like music a lot. Oh my!
You need to see Christine singing when she's having a shower. Bishop, you know when she was growing, I was so scared. During time of menstruation, who is going to teach her? I am talking to any parents here with an autistic child, Down syndrome, whatever it is. When that thing that you are fearing will not happen. Do you know today, Christine takes care of herself during her period. Christine takes care of herself during her period, not a stain. Not a stain, no. You know how adults will be going, your period will stain you, not with Christine. And this is someone that they say is disabled, that has a disability in learning. She wakes up, she will wash herself, close the. So you must learn new ways to communicate with your child. It is not English, it is not Yoruba, it is not only Igbo. There are other ways of communicating to a child. Bishop, do you know if we are in a whole congregation like this now, and Christine, because you know she's a girl, so I'm teaching her how to close her legs when she sits down. Because an autistic person now, you can't do sign. Like if you do like this, you'll be wondering what I say, Mommy, is something wrong with your eyes? You know, be doing sign like he doesn't understand sign. The emotional intelligence is very low. What do I do? I'll now do my hand like this. Once I do my hand like this, anywhere she is, PM, she has crossed her legs. Are you getting it? She has crossed her legs. Yeah. That is how I taught her how to now cross leg. In other mothers with normal in quotes, because what you call normal sometimes, normal in quotes, they will tell you, oh, just close your leg, they close. But I had to come up with, once I do like this, anywhere she is, she will close her leg. When she's eating, because you know there's no way you can say, Christine, when you're eating, don't open your mouth now. It is disgusting. It is this or that is long to renchi. What I do is I'll call her Princess Christine. Immediately I say Princess Christine. Bam, she will change. She will, in fact, she will arrange herself because I've called her Princess. I didn't just call Christine. I added Princess to the story, to her name. So she now understand that a princess will not be eating with her mouth open. Are you getting? There is no long short of there's no long drive. When you love your child, come close to your child. You will see. They will give you sign. You know this God that we worship, he doesn't make mistake in anything. what they lack in one side of their life, they compensate in another side of their life. Even in severe cases, unless a parent or the caregiver, primary caregiver, has not taken time to find out where their strength is, take time. I know you're hurting. I know you're disappointed. You were looking for a daughter that will come out and enter university and do medicine and come out and, but God has given you a special person to change the world. It is remember what I've just said, it is what it is. It is not evil spirits. It is not village. It's not people from your village pursuing you. It is what it is. Take care of yourself first.
Thank you, Sister Nanya. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm almost driven to tears,
Mothers go through a lot. Come out and take care of your child. Don't hide the child in the room. Don't hide them in the room. Bring them
out. Thank you. Sister Meg.
Yes.
It's been wonderful.
I thank her so much. She has elaborated so much. What I want to stress here is that I want parents to know. Yes, I want parents to know that their behavior and response to these challenges go a long way to impart on that child. And what she said about love. Okay?
Yes.
What she said about love encapsulates all the things. Yes. Yes. Because those children are reading in inner fears of not being accepted. So the moment you come out to show that love, despite what they are or who they are, accept them for who they are. If you don't need to hide them. Unfortunately, so many parents are hiding their children in their houses. They are not even bringing them out. There are so many schools that can take care of those children, but it has to start from the confidence, has to start from the home. Even the parents may not cure the learning disability, but we have a responsibility to build their social and emotional stability. If they are unable to build their emotional and social stability, it will be very, very difficult for them to grow. It will be very, very difficult for them to come out of the shock they are in. I consider it as a shock because they themselves may not even understand what they are going through, because they are also seeing other siblings doing what they are unable to do. And they'll be wondering, why am I different? Oh, I have a brother who can do this. I have a sister who can do this. And it's also important that there should be the rallying point where you have a child with learning disability shouldn't be ostracized. Rather, it should be a rallying point for the entire family to boost the ego of such a child. If everybody rallies around such a child, show love and be patient with that child will automatically pick up. So what we want to make parents understand is that what they cannot change, as Nonye said, is that we just have to accept it. But the call for us to stand up and take the initiative and be the advocate for our children is very, very important. Because when we fail to be the advocate for our children, the mouthpiece for our children, they too will also summon up the courage to face the world, to face the school, and to face the society.
Thank you very much. Quickly, I would like us to talk to also children who are listening to us today. Some children have developed hatred against their parents. Sometimes your parents shout at you, do some of these things, take hard stand. The way out is not to hate your parents. If they provide a solution, you reject it just because it's coming from them. Quickly, can we have just few lines for those children as we begin to conclude?
For the children, my word of advice is that honor your parents. Your parents mean wealth to you. They may be shouting. They are also going through a pressure that they may not know. But the advice to parents is that they should not be overwhelmed or discouraged, because if you're overwhelmed and discouraged, you will not provide the positive support and encouragement your child needs. Sometimes you put your hands around the child and hold the child firm to affirm that child and say you are able. Sometimes there are places you may, during the initial stage of exposure, sometimes when they are going to school, walk them at the early stage, walk them with your hands. That hands you are holding them, you are affirming them. And when you're walking into the classroom with them, you are helping them build their confidence. And they'll be proud to say, oh, see my mom has come to class. See my dad has come to class. I will also make this call to daddies, that this effort is not only for mothers, it is both father and mother. The father should also make time to affirm that child, to take that child to school, so that that child will overcome the fear of the other children in school. And for those who feel that being shouted at is making them to withdraw, I will beg of you, you don't withdraw, you must speak out. There is no problem anyone can solve if that child does not speak out. So when we encourage you to speak out, speak to your parents, speak to your aunties you feel you love so much. There must be a member of family who can come down to your level to understand what you are going through. And parents should also allow family members, extended family members, to understand what their children are going through. You never know who can come in and give the necessary support that that child needs. And of course, when I say talk to family members, you must be sure of which family member you are talking to. It must be somebody that is credible enough. You would have known that should lend a support to that child that is in question. And when that child is able to come out of his or her shell, sometimes that stubbornness is a way of retaliating or feeling discouraged. So they don't need to be discouraged. You don't need to be discouraged. If you're listening to us here, come out of that shell. Speak up. Even if daddy is making you something that is not right, speak to somebody. You may not speak to your mother, you can speak to your uncle. Even if it is mother that is making you feel bad the way she talks to you, speak to somebody. But by the time you are able to air your pains, there will be solution, there will be counseling, and you'll be able to overcome. And any parent that have such a child, I'll take that child for therapy. If you are not able to get out from that child through your love, what the problem is, take that child for therapy. They will come back to you, and stay away when you do that. They will come back to you to tell you what the problem with that child is. But when you continually impose yourself, even when you have engaged a therapist, that child will not speak up. That child wants to be alone and left alone, so that he can be able to voice what his challenges are, what are the things that make him feel bad or bitter. And they will now recommend therapy that will help the child to come out of it. And of course, we cannot take away the place of prayer. Pray for that child continuously and expect God to do the miracle in that child. You will never be disappointed, but you just have to persevere. And what if it's a lifelong situation? You just have to accept it the way it is and move on with your life, and be the support of that child throughout his or her own life time.
Thank you very much. You people have been very erudite and eloquent handling this topic. I appreciate you so well. So well. I would like to say this, that academic success does not necessarily mean life success. During my set in secondary school, our best student, I was so shocked the day I saw him, a roadside photographer at Aba. Yeah. I stopped, I cried, and he looked me in the face and said to me, "You all had somebody to train you further. I have nobody to train me further." But I also felt, I said to him, "It's your mindset. because you, I know, if you pass JAMB, somebody must help you.
Yeah.
You, I know, if you cry to anybody that you want to go to school, by your intelligent quotient, you would have no. There are children you see that you can't resist supporting when it comes to academics.
Yeah.
So, but he allowed all that to go with just a flimsy excuse that his parents, nobody would train him. And as at the day I saw him, he has blown his hair. He had started talking like a street child. I felt this was a young man wasting. So,
Yeah.
and the best, in short, so many, some of the people that had the best results in your class, they are not the most successful. So if you try certain things, it doesn't work, reorganize yourself.
Exactly.
A young man was crying that his father didn't train him at. Yes, young man was crying that nobody trained him in school. Another person took him to Onisha and showed him the skyscrapers and say, people that built these houses didn't go to school. So some may just learn a trade, learn a business. The ultimate is to be successful in life. And for every child listening to us, academics will favor you first before it will favor anybody around you. I like academics. I like going to school. What going to school instills in us is self-confidence. It's not the money.
Exactly.
Like today, so many children say, well, some children say, why going to school when we don't get a job? No, it gives you self-confidence. It gives you the boldness to look at tomorrow, to challenge it, to be bold. It is just like the righteous shall be as bold as a lion.
As a lion.
Yes, that's what it gives you. And you take it out there. Always know it's not about your parents, it's about you. It will first benefit you before it benefits another. And another thing people should know is that it doesn't matter how far you have missed it. Driving fast when you are lost will not help. Use a roundabout.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
A roundabout.
Yeah. So some people, some children feel, oh, we have missed it so much. I've wasted so many years. And they are not willing to make a U-turn. They say, well, no, the longevity of an abnormality does not make it a normality.
Does not make it normal.
Yes. These are the silent lessons we need to pass out there. If you think you have missed it, reorganize, re-engineer. Comma is not full stop.
Yes.
Don't stop. Don't stop where people expect you to stop. Keep on keeping on. And let's hope that someday this discussion would have added to your life.
Yes.
I teach leadership. And in course of teaching leadership, I say that a leader is a driver. A driver aims at dropping each person at their destination. Parents, don't give up on that child if you are not sure you have dropped that child at the right destination. Keep keeping on. I pray for you today as a bishop that God will help you. God will bless your effort. God will crown your effort with success. For those of you watching us from anywhere, you can see it being scrolled in case you want to support this live broadcast. If you're in the US, you can use your Zelle account, or anywhere in the world, you can use your PayPal and use the email designated humphrey.rumaka@gmail.com. Your support will reach us as we hope trying to transmit and reach you anytime. Today, initially when we started, it didn't look like we would go through, but by perseverance, we've gone through the broadcast. I want to thank Sister Meg. You need to educate me more if you had a whole lot of classes in psychology or children upbringing. Maybe it's a secret I don't know about you yet. And Sister Nonye,
Thank you, sir.
you've done also very well. You've done very well. And what more? Bringing you on board brought a whole lot of personal experience to this topic. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And God bless
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you
Bless
so
you, sir.
much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings.
Bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, it's been a wonderful day. To all of you listening
Yes.
to us, usually we bring this broadcast every Saturday, 3 o'clock. Today we had to adjust the time, but next week we'll go back to our 3 o'clock timing. Thank you for being patient with us. Thank you for accommodating our technical inadequacies. But come what may, we trust you have benefited immensely from today's discussion. Today's discussion happened to be more two ladies. You know, we didn't bring a man because we felt that women are good parents and they are better in the subject we are treating. Hopefully, we'll bring a man to spice the male angle. Thank you, and God bless. Blessings.